We have been discussing to create a program using a notepad or a file editor in Visual Studio. And this is the first stage in creating a program in C language. The important thing that once we have created the program and we go to the compilation stage, that we want to compile our program. When the system goes for the compilation, if we refer to our previous slide, the system goes to pre-processing stage and then it goes to the compiling stage. So after creating a program, when you want to compile, then a pre-processing stage is executed. After that, compiling is performed. What is done in pre-processing stage? In pre-processing stage, we actually include the files, or the compiler includes the file that we have used in our program. As we discussed earlier, in library files like stdio.header, we have the functions that we use. For example, we use printf to display on our screen, and this printf function is described in stdio.header file. So all such functions which we will be using in future, those are stored in some of their relevant library files. So before a compiler compiles a program, it includes those files, and in this inclusion process there are two different types. One type is using these braces, and the other type is these quotation marks. These are called angle brackets, and these are used for our library headers, and these quotation marks are used for our personally developed header files. So there are two categories of header files. One files are available as standard library files, and the second type of file, header file, are created by our own self. So this is a standard style to include library files by using angle brackets, and our own developed files by using these quotation marks. There is one other difference also, that these standard library files are searched in compiler and system directories. So the C language compiler will go to the system directory or compiler directory and will try to locate this stdio.header file, while for this test.header file, the compiler will go to the directory where our current .c program is saved. So your current directory where your c.c extension program is stored, there should also be this test.header file. For example, there may be any different name in your case. So the compiler first locates these files and includes these files in the program. At the next stage, it goes to compile, and in compilation stage, compiler translates the C program into a machine language code. As we discussed in our computing fundamentals course, that all the processors execute machine language code, and these are also called binary codes. So the compiler converts our instructions, statements or expressions into machine language code. So this is the reason, there is one important reason of including those library files That is why the previous stage is called pre-processing stage. Pre-processing means that before processing. So before processing, it includes the files that have functionality, and in our case, if we have to use printf, the functionality of printf is mentioned, is described in stdio.header file. That is why that file also included in this compilation process. So in pre-processing, we gather all the files that are required for our program. And in the compilation stage, these files are compiled and these are translated into a machine language code. And at the next stage is there are many options in compiling. If you want to experiment, or if you want to see, you have experimented up till now with Microsoft Visual Studio 2010, but there are other options. There is GCC compiler. Similarly, there is Eclipse compiler also. This Eclipse is also used for Mac. If you further go for iPhone development, then you may be using this Eclipse. This GCC compiler is also used in Mac environment. So these help you in developing for iPhone application. There are online resources as well. CodePad is one such example. It allows you to write your code in this area. You can write any code here and it will execute for you, that you can see the output. And this supports for these many languages. It allows you to write code in C, C++, and so many languages. So you should try this also. If you don't have any Visual Studio installed on your laptop, you can use this option. This is very simple. And similarly, this is also a program that is, of course, better version of CodePad, but it is a paid application. So I will recommend you to just go through these two. This compiler is a cloud-based service, and of course they provide you to save your code and later on reuse your code. So it is, of course, a far better service. So you can try this as well. But in your lab work, you must know to use Visual Studio 2010. The future is with cloud-based compilers, and you will see that all of your developments will shift onto the cloud-based systems. If you have seen Adobe Dreamweaver, now the Dreamweaver is also provided as a cloud-based service. So you must at least use once these cloud-based compilers, so because they allow you a 14 days free trial. The next stage is the linking stage, and at this linking stage, what we do, that executable image is produced. What do we mean by executable image? That we produce the executable file of our program. So for example, if you have written a code in a file test.c, and then you have compiled and then you have linked that code, in that process, or at the end of this process, you will get test.exe. It means that you got test executable file. So this executable file is actually it contains the binary code of your work, and it will be executing all the functionality mentioned in your code, and it includes the functions from standard libraries, and it includes as we discussed, that it will be including your defined header files. And one more thing, in addition to your defined header files, sometimes you refer to the libraries that are developed for certain application. For example, you have if your laptop has a webcam, then you might have seen some application that you can log into your laptop by face recognition, that the webcam on your laptop, whenever sees you, then it logins you. So you don't need to enter password. It just looks at your face, and if it recognizes you, then it logins you. So these applications actually provide libraries that you can link with your code, and you must go to any of such library, and of course trial versions or the free versions are available, and try to link in your work. So you can develop applications in these ways. And the next stage is, once you have created your executable file. What we mean by executable file, this is an independent file, and it is if you give someone this file, this .exe file, then that person can run your program. So it is a working application. And what the next stage is, once this working application is developed, then it is loaded in the memory. As we discussed in computing fundamental course, that whatever we have to run through our system, that first loaded in memory. Of course, it is taken from the hard disk and it is placed in the RAM, and at the next stage CPU executes that program. Here one key point is that CPU always executes one instruction at a time. It will execute first instruction, then second instruction, then third instruction, till all instructions are executed. So you must be able to always consider it that CPU executes instruction one by one. So it should be clear in your mind that when you are writing a code, you must be able to think step by step, that this be your first step, then second step, then third step, and your program should execute in these steps in this way. And you have to consider the sequence: first step, second step, third step. And the reason behind is that CPU executes the program step by step basis.